Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome for everybody that's joining from LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live on the Delta EMEA channel. My name is Judy Wu from Delta Electronics EMEA region, and I'm honored to be your moderator for today's session. Do you know that buildings and the building construction are responsible for almost 1/3 of global final energy consumption, according to the International Energy Agency? As the awareness of climate changes rises, this makes decarbonizing the buildings a very important topic. At Delta, this is always a topic that we recognize the importance and to improve the energy efficiency. This is why so far we have already established 32 owned or donated green buildings and also 2 green data centers around the world. The latest example is the new Helmont office in the Netherlands, which has been awarded recently the LEED Gold certificate. Today, we're broadcasting live from Helmont, the Netherlands, to mark the opening of this LEED Gold Green building. And we have invited 3 experts to join us here today to share with you why we think green buildings are so important and to share some examples we have implemented in this new building. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the discussion, and our speakers will answer your questions as much as possible. So stay tuned with us. Joining us here today at the live event is Mr. Gordon Jack, the project architect from Van Aken, which is also the architect who has designed this Helmont office. Mr. Rogier Kooijmans, the sustainable consultant from Deerns Group, and Mr. Andy Joseph, the facility manager of Delta Electronics EMEA region. They are here with us today to tell us more about the green building and the concept behind it. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today. So let's start today's discussion with a definition. Can you tell us what exactly is a green building, Rogier?
In my opinion, a green building is a building that covers all facets of sustainability. So not only looking at the energy consumption, and the solar panels, things like that, but also look at the water consumption a building has, the impact that the materials during construction have. So all facets that are in the building should be sustainable, and then you get a green building, in my opinion.
Interesting to see your perspective from a sustainable consultant's point of view, but from an architect point of view, Gordon, what is your view for what a sustainable or green building is?
Yeah, a green building, in a sense, is a building which contributes positively to its surrounding environment, while having as minimal or hopefully no impact, a negative impact on its environment. That is, for example, for the CO2 emissions, the energy consumption, but also goes further than that with, for example, green mobility, circular material usage. All these specific aspects contribute to what would be a green building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gordon, you mentioned a lot about sustainability and green, and of course, especially like we mentioned in the opening, like buildings consist of 1/3 of the carbon emissions, and also like the increase of the population. According to the United Nations, by 2050, 2 out of every 3 people will be living in the cities, which means we actually need to increase the buildings. So for sure, we will need to create it in a sustainable way. But what are the other reasons that makes a green building so important and that we should build as much as possible, Rogier?
Well, in my opinion, we need more and more buildings, so we do have impact. And just like you said, we want to minimize or even have a negative, a positive impact on the buildings, with the buildings on the environment. And especially when more and more people live in the city, we need to have lower that impact, so we create a better environment also for the people, but also for animals and plants in the cities as well. And it makes the cities, in my opinion, more livable for all the people that are living there.
Yeah, and essentially it is necessary. Without the sustainable green buildings for now and the future, there will be no future. Mm-hmm. With the issues of climate change and with what Rogier said about the density of people living in inner cities, the higher dense populations for example, in the Netherlands, but overall all over the world, you need to create sustainable solutions in order to have that ready for today and for tomorrow.
We of course need to be prepared for tomorrow and for the future. Andy, for your view from a facility manager, what are the other aspects? Why is we should create as much green building as possible?
I think for the energy efficiency is very important. Like we did here in Hoofddorp, in Helmont. We also have another building in Hoofddorp, but in Helmont we did lots of different solutions to be able to make it possible, so that environmentally for the employees, that's very important. The well-being of the employees is a very important point, to tackle. Yes.
Andy, since you mentioned already the Helmont Green Building, what exactly have we implemented to make it green?
Now, actually, there's lots of things that you can do to make the building green. Like we got the advice from the consultant there. There are lots of things that you can implement, especially energy efficiency, the monitoring of the energy, all the building management solutions that we installed in the building that makes it possible to make a building green, or make a building smarter, to make a building better. Yeah.
What exactly are the technologies that has been implemented? Can you go maybe a step further?
Yes, so we did, of course, the solar panel, the production of energy that we do in this building. We also did a building management system that controls the temperatures, controls the lights. It makes the environment more comfortable, because that's the focus point. It's not only the building, but it's also the employees who are here, that they are capable of working properly. One of the lead things, as you can see on the screen, there's a heat pump that we installed, efficient heat pump that gives the building the possibility to heat up, to cool down, and this helps us to be more efficient than a standard building that you'll see in the Netherlands. We also have a weather station to be able to monitor and determine what the temperature should be. Talking about efficiency and talking about smart, that is most of the things that we installed and we did here in Helmont. Yeah.
Is it only within the building, or like also you implement something outside of the building?
Also, as you can see, also out of the building, we did a smart parking system. Try to make it as friendly as possible, but also efficient in using the building, using the outside plot. We did a smart parking system. We did a EV charging system. We did a smart. We call it the smart pass, or the smart parking system that we used here in Helmont, to be able to help our colleagues, to encourage our colleagues, like for the lead, very important part, encourage our colleagues to drive more green, and to be more efficient in that.
Yeah, I think it's also good to mention that there's also a non-visible feature in there in the parking lot, because below there are infiltration crates. So when there's a heavy rainfall, you don't put it in the sewers, but no, you put it back into the ground, which also is good for the droughts that we have more and more in the Netherlands. So that's also, I think, a positive impact that we can make with this design.
Yeah. Also, another thing you don't really think about, but the type of biodiversity that we have in the plot is a relative compact plot, where there is flora and fauna on the terrain that is can be sustained without irrigation systems. So you have this beautiful green landscape that contributes to a healthy environment without having to add additional energy to pump water around or have an irrigation system.
Perfect. Aside from the technology and the plot that we're in, design-wise, is there anything that we implemented in this building to make it green, Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, the user was our focus. The user was the center, the heart of the project, to make it as healthy and a sustainable building as possible. We create a really nice inner space that have open plan office environments with good natural daylighting, so you can minimize the usage of artificial lighting. Also, good quality office environment with views outside to basically increase the quality of the working spaces. What we have behind us here today is the beautiful atrium. It's in the center of the building. It encourages the staff members who come into the building to use the staircase. It creates a beautiful heart of the building. And that also helps to the well-being, the well-being of the occupants. Small details, for example, we have a roof terrace outside. It's also for the to have a sustainable for the well-being of the staff members, so that at lunchtime, if they're a little bit low on productivity, they can step outside, breath of fresh air, and then come back in. All these small details that we added to the project from an architecture point of view, as a design point of view, really helps to make it from a spatial perspective a sustainable design.
Mm-hmm. And Rohir, from your point of view?
Well, one thing I want to add in there is that it's also about the health being that you have is very important, because if people like to work in a building, you're not going to adjust the building, so all materials will stay for their lifespan in there. And I think it's also a sustainable way of thinking, well, make a building that's very good, that everyone wants to be in for long term.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's a good point as well. The office environment that we're in now is designed in such a way it's so flexible that in the future it can be adapted to the future needs of Delta. So, for example, it's now open plan, but if there is more meeting rooms necessary or more private offices required or another type of space, the space is designed in such a way that it's column free, so we can build what we want. The insulations are prepped and ready for it to be transformed like that, and that is simply to future-proof for the adaptation in a year's time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, or over the whole life cycle of the building. It was the same for the industrial area, for the testing and the R&D area. That was also designed in a relatively sustainable way, in which that it is so flexible that due to the demands of Delta, it's really easy to implement new spaces, put in new machinery without having to do heavy demolition work or having to change the building in a significant way.
I think a combination of technology and design, we have eventually achieved the LEED Gold certificate. But I actually are very curious on what exactly is LEED, Rohir?
LEED is a certification scheme, and we use that to quantify the sustainability of a building and also relate different buildings to each other to see how good you are doing things. And a very important thing in there is it's also third-party verified, so you're not going to say, well, I'm green, have sustainable building. No, there is an instance, there's the US Green Building Council for this LEED certification. They check every detail, so we send all the documentation in there, and they're going to decide if what the sustainability is of the building. And with that, I think with the Delta Helmont office, we achieved the LEED Gold certificate, which in my opinion is a very nice and very sustainable certificate that we achieved.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you mentioned actually to obtain LEED, you need to meet a lot of standards.
Yeah.
Andy, what exactly have we done to make sure that Helmont office reaches the LEED Gold certificate standard?
Talking about standards, there's lots of standards that are needed. If I look back at our experience, me and Rohir, and also with Gordon, lots of experiences, lots of standards that we were focusing on. Technology-wise, the billing management system, I find is one of the most important things that is needed for the LEED, especially for the LEED certificate. It's asking for energy efficiency, and so that the energy is monitored, not only what we use in the building, like the lights, but also what we produce. So with the billing management, we can actually see everything that is being done, everything that's being used, and this makes it smart, but this makes it also LEED certified in a way that everything could be monitored and notice. Yeah.
I want to add on that the building management system also makes it more efficient, the building, because you can do things on room level, and I think it's good to mention that within the LEED certificate we got the maximum amount of points for the energy savings that we got. So I think that's a combination of a smart system and the amount of solar panels that are on the roof.
Yeah, and also the air quality. One of Delta's products that we use in the building, to measure the air qualities, to be able to control the air quality also. It's a very important part because it's for the wellness of the colleagues. Again, there comes the wellness of the colleagues. Very important part. So I find but that's my favorite part of the building management system. That's that helped a lot to be able to achieve. Yeah.
Is there any fun or interesting fact that we maybe now imagine, but it actually is a LEED standard?
Yeah, fun. I'm not sure how fun it is to ride a bike. I love to ride bike. So a bike shed was one of the things that needed to be installed, but also a shower room.
A shower room.
Shower room, yes, for those who ride the bike to work, that they're freshly come to work.
Actually,
yes.
That makes sense, but it never would occur to me that a bike shed and a shower room is actually also an added point to the LEED certificate as well.
I mean, one point on that is that mobility is so crucial. So if you can try to encourage people to take sustainable means of transport by bike, for example. People can come here, they can shower, they can get freshened up. It's also public transportation. We have relatively okay transportation here, but it's about trying to minimize the usage of the car and transferring that into usage of a sustainable transportation. And luckily, Delta is leading in EV charging, and that's fantastic because here outside in the parking lot, there's no problem at all to drive your electric car here, and that is an additional way to make the building sustainable.
Yeah, I think these are nice examples to show that with a building you can adjust the way people are behaving. Basically, also what you mentioned with the stairs. If you have a nice stair in the atrium, you are more likely to take it instead of the elevator and stuff like that. And also with the EV charging, that helps people to do that instead of their general normal way of doing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if a building is sustainable, the building is really enjoyed to be used and occupied, that's fantastic. It's not like you build a building, you move into an office space, and then it's not fit for purpose, and then the staff don't have good air quality or have problems with daylighting, or they have spatial issues, and then they want to move to another office. Then of course that transformation of another office space costs a lot of energy, and the fact that we have such a beautiful building here that everybody can enjoy and have that means that the Delta will have a long time to stay in this building.
I think what I can conclude from this discussion is that LEED Gold certificate or LEED Gold certificate building, or just in general green building, is actually made for people. So the wellness of our employees or the wellness of people using this building, how they come, they're all critical. So it's really people-centric. But of course, to reach these, I believe there will be a lot of difficulties to put these, it's easy for us to discuss now, but when we realize it, there must be a lot of difficulties. Andy, can you maybe mention what are the difficult parts that I have encountered during this process?
Yes, I know some colleagues would be laughing with me. Lots of difficulties we encountered, but we made it. And one of the things that I noticed that is very important, and that is that the communication part of the vendors. Maybe these two gentlemen could inform more, but the communication of the vendors that all are focused to reach the goal that we wanted to reach, just like what we planned in the beginning, LEED Gold, that everybody is focused to be able to reach that. Yeah.
As part of it, I mean, we design this as part of a much bigger team than for example, the three here. There's hundreds of people involved, and everybody has to be focused on that one goal of creating that sustainable design. And if you have one team member who is not willing to participate in creating a sustainable building and a sustainable future, that can have a huge impact on the whole design process, the whole accreditation process. Thankfully for us, that Delta Electronics is one of the companies who is leading in wanting to become sustainable and be a precedent, be an exemplary example of what companies should do to become fully sustainable. And therefore, from Delta's leadership, it made it a lot easier for the design team to follow and to create together a really good. LEED Gold certified building.
Mm-hmm.
So Gordon, I found from your comments, the key word is teamwork, right? To work together as a team, for everybody to co-work together.
Yes, that's correct. If you all have the single goal in mind to create that sustainable building, it makes it a lot easier. Of course, there's a lot of difficulties along the way. What Andy mentioned about the vendors and the suppliers and the subcontractors, and if one of those parties is not up to speed with the sustainable ambitions, that can be a hindrance on the process. And that's something we have to, as a design team on every project, have to navigate in the best way possible, in order to ensure that everything that we put into the building, we have a good certification for. We understand where the materials come from. We understand the background behind certain aspects, so that we can guarantee that it is all known the sustainable.
Especially the last part. I think with the LEED certification, you're not only building it, but you also everybody in there, everyone proves and that it's sustainable, and it can be checked by the third party, by this certification company. So that's also a difficult thing, because it's more administration, it's sort of, so people keep track of the things they're doing, and that is getting more and more standard within companies. But it depends a little bit on the company how easy it goes. But I think with this project it was pretty smooth.
Yes, I believe a lot of difficulties has been overcome, and of course teamwork, like we just mentioned, is the key word to overcome all these difficulties. How long has it take to build the Helmont office from design to delivery?
I would say approximately 3 years, till we 3 to 4 years till we got into the building. In April we got the building. It was handed over. But I think we moved last year, November, so 3 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 2018, we started with the initial design for the project. A year later, we're on site, so that's also quite swift.
Yeah.
And then the construction time was also relatively fast, and it's a compliments to the contractor and the team going through a very difficult period with the pandemic, that we were able to achieve it within a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, it was 13 months. Yeah, 13 months. Yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about the Helmont office green building and how it was built, human-centric, and difficulties we have overcome, and the fantastic teamwork. It is all built because of the future that we want to achieve. When we come to the topic about future, what are the futures for green buildings from your perspective? Perhaps we're here.
I think with in the future, buildings getting greener and greener, because with all the technology, what's now the most efficient, that is in 10 years, it's outdated. So I think we raise the bar each year, and I think it's also good to have companies like Delta that wants to achieve a high level on LEED and be on top of that. Secondly, I think we should look further than our own building site. We look at our own building now, but we should more look at the community level or campus level, because we have all kind of energy issues, because some buildings have a surplus of heat or cooling, and now we don't benefit of that. But if we link those together, we get a more sustainable network, and I think that will be even a more efficient way of making a building environment.
You have to look at it not only specifically from your own plot. You have to think about it for, as what Rogier said about the community, about building a sustainable tomorrow on a building level, on a neighborhood level, on a city level, on a country level, and on a continent level. The ambition of the European Union set in place to have minimizing the CO2 contributions by 90% from 1990 was it. But they're also, like the Dutch government, for example, are having implementing the regulations to minimize the wastage in building to really transform the building industry into a circular economy, so that we have to reuse the materials. So about what's going to happen in the future is how you're not going to have a building built and then demolished and then put into a landfill. You're going to be thinking about how you can reuse all the building materials. What is the life cycle of material? Can you recycle it? Can you reuse it? Can you remanufacture it? Can you repurpose it? And constantly giving new lease of life to all the building materials, whilst minimizing the usage of natural and very limited resources. And everything that we're going to do possible to basically make a very positive impact for the future.
About the future, we talked about your views, but technology-wise, Andy, what do you think will be the future for green buildings?
Yeah, I think we're going in the direction, and I see it already in a couple of projects that we do here in Helmont. Especially the parking project, we use the artificial intelligence, and this helps to, like the gentleman spoke of, we're going more than just smart meeting room or smart building, but we're going to smart street, smart city, smart world. We hope to be quite smart. This artificial intelligence is going to help us with the deep learning, with the different ways of tackling the issues we have at the moment to make everything smarter.
It's not only like for Delta for an office building and in a small part of it the industrial areas. We implement in many projects now smart building technologies, exactly what Andy is talking about on a residential projects, for example, to learn how people use residential buildings, how people come in and out of the building, in order to learn as much as possible for how buildings are used now, in order to make good decisions for how to design for the next project. And every single piece of data that we can take out, even if it is for installations, or if it's how people actually physically use the rooms, or what the type of climate they like, or how often they use specific spaces. All that data mining can really help influence how we design, not only at a building level, but of course at a much bigger streetscape level and a city level for the future.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. Also, thank you, Andy and Rogier. I think today we have a very exciting discussion. You all mentioned like what your definition is for green building, and also we came back to talk about the future and what we have actually already done. For now, we are ready to take the questions from the online audiences. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to raise them. You can simply do that by putting into the chat box in the LinkedIn Live or YouTube Live, and we'll try to get to your questions as much as possible. So in the meantime, my colleague has already passed me a few questions. The first question is about the aesthetic question. I think this one would be going to Gordon. From an aesthetic point of view, you mentioned the future of green building, but aesthetic-wise, what will it look like?
It's a really great question, because it's really a hot topic at the moment, what we do at Van Aken. What you're going to see will be an emergence of different types of building materials. So aesthetically, is separate from the engineering factors. For example, we traditionally build in concrete or steel, but the emergence of bio-based materials, wood is a prime example of that. How you can use that with different technologies to build not only what is relatively common technology for small, low-scale buildings, but also high-rise buildings. That will influence how a building will look. You also have to think about the bio-based materials. So instead of some projects we're working on, instead of using a standard brick, for example, you can use reclaimed aggregate materials that's compacted and made into a different type of brick. Recycled plastics that would otherwise be discarded, you can actually form by pressing and then creating a new building materials. So what you will see is this kind of new physical aesthetic coming to life. How building forms are created and the different aesthetics. That's also how you use computer design to basically make a compact of most efficient layouts. We use parametric design in our office, and that is a way in which you basically use data-driven analysis, data-driven input in order to create the best, most optimal solution. So that's also in terms of, for example, facade design, standard facade design. You can, again, for the brick aspect, you just make a standard brick facade. But if you can use technology to generate new ideas and new facade design, you can implement that very effectively, and also that data then can be given to the contractor. It can minimize, for example, the material usage. You have all the specific quantities that can be given to all the suppliers, and then that is then basically will help sculpt and make much more, I would say, I don't dare to say organic form buildings, but I would say that's definitely something that perhaps could be the future.
Yeah, and I think also what you already a little bit said is that it's all kind of with the parametric design, but also with the minimum, the requirements that we have from sustainability. We'll have a more leading position in design, also on the architectural layout and facades. Before it was more the feeling, and now it's, I think, a more balance. Okay, what do we want? How do we want to be look like, and what is efficient for an efficient use? And I think that's now a twist, a turn that we have made in the last few years in how we design the buildings.
Yeah. In a sense, it's also going to be a much more closer collaboration, I think, between architecture and engineering. It's no longer you design a nice building and implement technology inside of it. It is there's no division anymore. The building is the architecture. One prime example for that is the new. We have, of course, hundreds of solar panels on the roof of the industrial part of this building right now, and that's fantastic because it creates a surplus of energy for Delta Electronics, and also gives back energy to the national grid. But new materials, new facade materials will be, they are now being created and can be employed into buildings. Can mean that every single piece of your facade of your building can potentially generate energy for you. And once that technology becomes more readily available, perhaps cheaper and perhaps more flexible and more broader range of what you can have, you will see that overall, and then that is then where the blend of architecture and engineering really meet each other perfectly.
Thank you, Gordon, and thank you, Rohir, for answering the question. We have one more question coming from the online audience. What is the best way to convert existing buildings to green buildings? I personally find this question very interesting because, of course, the Helmont office is built from scratch, but there are a lot of existing buildings as well that I think a lot of audiences are interested in to know if it's possible to transfer into green building, and if yes, how? So perhaps, Rohir, you can take this question?
Yeah, also work on those kind of projects where you renovate a building. Well, the first thing that you have to check, in my opinion, is what is still good in the building, because don't start just demolishing everything and put everything new. If things are still useful, use them. Also equipment, revise them, that they are still getting up to date. And a lot of buildings can basically be green buildings. There are limitations, of course, but still, I think if with that in mind, you can make a huge impact and check where can you improve the facade if needed, and make it more smart if that's possible. So yeah, there are a lot of options to make your building greener.
When you say make it smart, is it like technology-wise or to implement?
Well, most of the time, if you have a renovation, you have quite an old building, so they're tens of years old. And what we have now in this building as well, that you have monitor each room, so it's also good to ventilate on places where you need it, so people have a good environment, but also reduce the ventilation if they are not. So then you save in that way very easy some energy, which is basically spilled.
Yeah. I mean, in the end of the day, like if you have an office building or an old office building or old industrial building or anything that can be repurposed, there is so much value in that. Before you even think about transforming, you have to look at what value is still in the existing building that you could reuse. The old industrial buildings of Philips, for example, you could strip away the concrete facades, for example, or take out the materials, reuse the aluminium, you can basically mine all the existing materials and then reuse that, and that already creates a great platform for making a renovated, sustainable building. Also seeing the value in the superstructure, for example, if that's one of the things that costs the most, has the highest impact is the structure. For example, if it's an old concrete building, now if that can stay, and you can highly insulate it, really add a lot of insulation to the flooring, ceiling, walls, create a new insulation system. Already you have a relatively sustainable building without doing very much. And then every single thing you add after that can only help contribute to making an existing building much more sustainable.
Yeah, I must agree with what you said, because we have our building in Hoofddorp, and it's a renovated building, and this is one of the most important part I notice, having the facade. So for those who are asking the question, having the facade properly isolated is so important, that this helps already with like 30%, 40%, 50% of your, making it green.
Yeah. If you can highly insulate it, make it airtight, so that you have to have minimum energy needed to climatize the inside. All these factors. We did it also for downstairs. It's not a transformation, but even simple things that you don't think about for what is a sustainable green building, like to be able to climatize the showroom downstairs just by having a tourniquet that minimizes the air loss from air contamination from outside inside. Insulated loading docks. There's a lot of small details that you just take for granted, but every single thing that we did here and what you can do for existing building, for example, can contribute to making a sustainable building. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. I think this is a very interesting discussion. Like today, we not only cover the new green buildings, but we also touched the topic about how to renovate it from the old building and to make it also sustainable without demolishing everything. There's one more question coming from the online audience. Does Delta want to build more LEED certified buildings in the future? Andy?
I think they do. I don't know the plans totally, but seeing that we did a good start with Helmont.
It's good to remark this is a 30-second green building.
Yes.
So there are already
for
a lot of
new people that are tuning in, there's already a lot of precedent for having green building.
Yes. So I think, yes, we're going for more. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yes. And I would like to actually conclude the discussion we have today. Thank you once again, Rohir, Andy, and Gordon for your discussion. We had a valuable discussion today about the green building, from what we have achieved and what the future would be. I would also like to thank the online audiences that has stayed with us until now. Thank you for your participation for today. We'll end the live streaming here. Once again, thank you very much and have a nice day. Goodbye.